Oh,
Hi,
Terry,
Terry.
oh, you're there as well too. Hi, Terry. Oh, Jackson, is that Mr. Sean Jackson? I wonder. Anyways, before we get started, folks, we thought we'd share this little video with you about Wyerton Willie coming all the way from Wyerton. And it's not playing, team.
Weird. Can you move that box out of the way? Is that interfering?
I can't move it.
Oh,
Hey, Denise, it totally just reassures me that that happens to you guys. I thought it was just kids being on the other end that were the bad luck term, but apparently it's me.
Good morning. I'm Mayor Janice Jackson.
I had to click in the
It's
middle.
Prediction Morning here in Wyerton, and I want to welcome you to the 65th annual Wyerton Willie Prediction Morning.
65 years ago, my father, Mac McKenzie, thought Wyerton should have a winter event to help bring more people to the area. After raising a glass with friends, they decided to make Wyerton the Canadian capital for Groundhog Day. Dad invited the press to town, and to his surprise, a reporter from the Toronto Telegram arrived. Finding Dad and his friends, he asked, "Where's the prediction? Where's the groundhog?" So they took a woman's fur hat, threw it in the snow, and the rest, they say, is history.
It would appear we're in for an early spring, judging by the weather this morning.
Sorry, 6 more weeks of winter.
Willie has predicted we'll have 6 more weeks of winter because he hasn't seen a shadow.
The prediction from Wyerton Willie is an early spring.
6 more weeks of winter it will be.
Hello, summer. It's an early spring.
What am I saying? It's an early spring.
There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you. Where's Willie? We need to do a prediction.
It's an early spring.
There you have it, folks, from beautiful Wyerton, Ontario, the official prediction. Willie predicts an early spring.
Thank you so much for joining us on this unusual COVID prediction. I hope you had a lot of fun strolling down memory lane, as I sure did. I'd like to thank the people of the town of South Bruce Peninsula and Bruce Power for all of their support. And I hope that you join us next year when we have the 66th annual Wyerton Willie Prediction Morning. Thanks for joining us. Cheers.
Hi everyone, it's Alex Ruff, your Member of Parliament for Bruce Grey Owen Sound. Just want to wish Wyerton Willie a happy 65th anniversary. Stay safe.
Hello everyone, Wyerton Billy.
Okay, we'll stop with that.
Welcome everybody. Hope you are having a fabulous day. Again, as always, thank you for joining us after a long day in front of screens. We are always genuinely appreciative of your time and joining us and your commitment to kids. So thank you for joining us on this Groundhog Day today. That is good news, though. We only have according to Wyerton Willie, six more weeks of winter. Hopefully his prediction holds true.
6 weeks till spring. They said early spring, right? You got to put the positive spin on it, team. Yeah. All right. Yes. Welcome everyone to our 5th remote learning. We want to thank you for being here with us and for doing everything you're doing for your kids. So I am Denise, and I am joined by team. And we'll just start out by acknowledging that the land that we are connecting on today is part of the traditional territory of the Chippewa, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Delaware nations. And by personally making a land acknowledgement, we are taking part in the act of reconciliation and honoring the land and the Indigenous heritage. So first, before we get started, this is hot off the press. This is from Pam Pam Gallant. She is our a resident Aspen professional expert. And she said, this is something that you need to take note of. Today is actually, well, yesterday, I guess, today, whatever, either day, is the actual first day of term 2. So when we are in our report card program and you go to click, it defaults everything to term 2 because it goes by the date. So please take note that when you hit the printing report cards tab, make sure you go up here, and this is us up here in the K-8 section up here. Make sure you click on the winter tab. It'll say spring. Make sure you click it to winter. If you don't, when you go to print your report cards, it'll all be blank. And I'm sure that probably will cause some panic amongst some teachers. So just something to remember. And if you ever hear of one of your colleagues having that problem, it's just because the program automatically defaults by date to term 2. And we just have to go in and manually click that. So this is where we kind of thought we would just get us going today. So Teen in the chat is going to put a link to this particular slide. And it just says, if you could wake up tomorrow having gained any quality or ability, what would it be? So when Teen sends you the link, click on it and you'll be able to pull one of those colored tabs over and you'll be able to write on it. This is what it'll look like. You'll be able to pull it over and write on it and fill in your thoughts. So I think if I click on the chat, I can get the link.
I would like to have a lot more abilities. I was working with a teacher this afternoon, and I was sharing that I have a tagline, and my tagline is ambitions above abilities since 1978.
Since 1978.
Yeah, my ambitions have exceeded my abilities since 1978.
Stop sharing for a minute.
And there's also well, we're going to talk a little bit more about why we're doing it this way. This is a potential tool that you can use with students as well.
I'm trying to I'm going to put mine in the chat in the thing too. That's what I'm doing. And then I'll have to redo it.
You want me to screen share the next part, Denise, and I can kind of walk through the link slide part of it?
Beautiful. I'm almost done.
Okay. So if you're in our presentation, if you're viewing my Zoom window, what I have is I've got our slide deck here, but what you guys are working on is a separate slide file. So what I can do though is I've copied a link I've copied a link of that file into this slide deck. So what I can do is, if you notice up in the top right hand corner here, actually I'm just going to turn this on. Up in the top right hand corner here, notice there's an update tab here. So when I click update, what will happen is it's going to populate, it's going to update all of that information from that shared slide deck that we just all worked on. So when I click update, it's going to pull in all that information from that slide that we were working on. So if you're looking to do that yourself, what you would do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to copy that file, and when you paste it into your other presentation, so if I'm pasting it here, notice that on the right hand side here you get this option for importing slides. You want to link to the original presentation, so that allows us to pull and update information anytime that slide deck is changed. So if there are any changes.
Tian, you went really fast and I couldn't see. It was, my screen wasn't on full screen. I was in the other one. Where did you originally click on above? I'm not following you.
Okay, let me back it up. I'm sorry.
It's just so small.
Try to make it. Oh, I don't know if I can make it any bigger. Let me see. Thank you for the feedback. Well, let me see if I can change that. It doesn't change the size of the window though.
I think she's just having problems. Like, I don't think her screen was on full team.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is so I'm going to share this. So this is a separate slide deck, and it's so everyone's collaborating, so you can share that link with students. So like you normally would. So I would share, and then I would copy that link and let students work on it. But what I can do as well is I can copy. I'm going to right click on this slide. I'm going to copy it, and I can paste it into a separate presentation or into a separate slide deck. And when I paste it, I have the option to link it to the original presentation. So how this might be used is, say you want to have just some key assessments. Maybe I want this one slide from everybody's presentation or from everybody's slide deck that they've been working on, and I want to save it here. That's a way that you can do that. So then anytime that file is changed now, so say there were some changes to this other slide deck, then it would also be reflected here, and I would just click the update over here. It was just a little trick that we thought we might share today.
So I like how you said that we could, like, if you were thinking of just getting a quick little assessment from your kids, you could put one of these, you know, at the end of your lesson or as an exit ticket for the students. They fill out, you gather it all in one spot, right in the slide deck that you had the lesson in, say, and then you have some control. You can, you know, just kind of see what's going on, you know, where they're at, where do you need to go to next, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sometimes I don't want that whole slide deck, right? Is that there's just like one key slide that has valuable information for me. And that's a way to kind of collect that information all in one spot.
For sure. And Irma, I like how she said she wants to clone herself. That was my other one I was toying with, cloning myself.
Yeah, so
Hey, Teen, quick question.
Yes, sure.
How do I make one of those pull tabs that duplicates itself when I drag and clip it? It's like an infinite cloner. How do I do that? Is it just insert pull tab or?
Yeah, so what I did was I inserted it as a shape. So if I was creating a new tab, I'm going to insert a shape. And I think I just went down to one of the arrows here. So I grabbed this one right here.
Okay.
So there, I'm just going to blow these out of here for a second, just get them out of the way. So a quick way for like infinite cloner, good question, is say I want to make a whole bunch of these. What I can do is I'm going to put my text on here and say I want to make a whole bunch of copies. The really easy way to do that is I'm going to do Control C to copy it. And then I'm going to do Control V, and I'm just going to hold that down and just make a whole bunch of copies.
Oh, you already made them and then just restack them.
Right. And then what you can do is if I select them all, I draw the box around them, and I right click and I align them horizontally. And then I align them vertically. That puts them in a nice neat pile, and then you can just use it like an infinite cloner. So now I can just drag.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you for that.
Well,
I did not know the align horizontally and align vertically existed.
Right.
There, so that's great. Thank you.
Right. So that's how we did that.
And then just Can you just show teams, like if you just pull one off, the rest all just stay there?
Yep. So I just pull them off, and then, yeah, and then if I want to make those multiple copies, all I'll do is just I'll duplicate one of these and just change the fill color, and just repeat it over again.
There we go.
Yeah, and you'll see that we use that today. Well, but we use this feature in our manipulatives today. So we'll share a little bit more about it there as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Teen, my internet seems to be lagging because I can't even. All right, the yellow shape just popped up on mine, so maybe it's best if you actually just keep sharing.
Yeah, no problem. We can keep going. So we've kind of been working on this series of how do we know what students know, right? And in online learning, it's challenging. There's lots of things that kind of we don't get those cues. You know, oftentimes cameras aren't on. We don't know if they're getting it, like those nods and those kinds of things that help us to understand if kids are getting it. So we have to kind of adapt to that and use our tools to kind of cope with that. Another challenge that we've seen too, as well, is that when teachers are trying to use manipulatives or use these different online tools, say you send them to another site and they go and do something, is when they come back, they either have to know how to like screen capture or record, and then like we don't know what they did there or what learning kind of took place or what questions are still there. So our thought along this is kind of like keeping them in the environment that they know, like they know Google Slides, and then just really like thinking about ways to use that tool to get more information from students. And so our intent today is to share kind of how these tools digital manipulatives can help us with assessment for learning, but also help us to provide better feedback for kids.
And I think you raised a good point too, Teen. We don't, like when we're assessing kids, we don't know, sometimes is it the tool that's getting in the way of actually assessing what they know? Like, are we assessing their ability to use the tool? And, you know, and if that's the case, then that's not something that we really want to record on the report card or assess them on. So by keeping everything kind of in the Google Slides area, we kind of thought, well, this is a way that we can kind of alleviate that from being a problem with students, is navigating in Google Slides. So if you miss some of our past sessions, like no problem, they're recorded and they're online, and we talk about other ways that we could use Google Slides to kind of build on each other and use these ways to assess students.
Yeah, my thinking about it is like when I watch a really good carpenter or I watch people who are really good artisans at what they do, they usually don't have complicated tools. Like they have, you know, it's just how skillfully they use their tools. And that's something that I've sort of been keeping in mind as we're exploring all these different tools. And, you know, there's 1,000,001 different technologies, but it's frustrating as teachers to have to go and learn all these new tools. And then also we have to teach it to our kids, and it doesn't work on all the devices. So those are kind of the things that we're keeping in kind of front of mind as we're trying to support as well. So what we're going to take a look at today is 3 digital math manipulatives. And where we're really looking for is we're going to provide sort of an example of how it could be used, but we really want you to kind of take it and adapt it to what you think is appropriate for your kids and how you think it would be best used. And also, if you share that back with us, if you're, you know, if you go and try these tools with kids and bring them back and say like this worked well and this didn't, like, those are really valuable conversations that we can have as well. So the first thing we're going to take a look at today is fraction strips. So I'm going to share in the chat here a link to another shared slide deck.
Oh, perfect.
Exit presentation mode here for a second.
Yeah, see, I can get the link for you, team.
Did that show up in the chat?
Yes, it did.
So I'm gonna,
like, I can't even, yeah, mine's not even loading.
the Wi-Fi issues today, Denise.
I know.
It's okay. It's all right. We'll work. It's real.
I think it's probably child related. They're both in the house right now. Anywho.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so I see. Is that you, team, moving that third, or?
Yeah, no, so
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so this is this is something that I've kind of been thinking about over over the last little while, is that we've been working on kind of thinking about engagement and how do we kind of know what kids are doing and monitoring and providing feedback. So here, there's some interesting things that happen is when we talk to students about, so you're going to head on in, you are going to grab yourself a slide, and then you're going to put your name on that slide. And once your name is on that slide, that's your personal kind of workspace. Other people are going to be respectful of it. It's totally okay to kind of jump around and maybe get inspiration from one of your classmates. But in the end, we kind of want to bring it back to your own thinking. So really be ready to explain how you solve this problem. So if we're kind of thinking about, one of the big things is anticipating student thinking by solving the problem ourselves. So let's take a few minutes here to grab ourselves a slide, think about how you would represent this problem, and using the tools that we have. So we'll give everyone an opportunity to kind of just play around with it a little bit. So these fraction tiles on the left hand side are manipulable. You can drag them over, move them around. One thing to kind of watch is that they if you grab the corners, they will you will change the shape or change the tool. So just be a little bit careful about that.
So the one thing I like about doing these shared is that as the teacher, you can kind of monitor everybody's work and see if anybody's on more than one slide.
Are you sharing a copy of the fraction strip with it made up all in those little pieces?
Yes, so all of these templates will be shared in our show notes for today.
So I'm not understanding in the chat. Diane says, wouldn't it be better to put fraction strips as the background, like as a picture or an image? She says she uses it in Jamboard and then they just drew lines.
Instead of pulling it all apart, I use the whole fixed one as a background. They can't move it at all. And then you just draw a straight line in front of the length, or the, if it's 3/8, you go over to 3/8 and draw a straight line. And you can see which is longer. But I like this. This is more powerful.
Well, there's, and it all comes down to teacher intent, right? So in this case, what we're wanting kids to think about is the unit fraction. So we want them to kind of focus in on the idea that 3/8 is actually 3/1/8. And as they're physically like manipulating them, we can kind of bring that conversation to life. And then we can kind of like make visible our thinking here was that if we're gonna order these fractions, we can also think about, there's an idea here that 3/8 is less than half. So if we're giving them that, we're trying to help them develop that benchmark of half. So 3/8 is 1/8 away from a half. 5/12 is 1/12 away from a half. 2/6 is 1/6 away from a half. And then we can also, and we use that, like we're trying to lead kids into thinking about, well, if 5/12 is only 1/12 away from a half, that it's close to a half because 12ths are small pieces. And if we're thinking about 3/8, we need 4/8 to make a half, and that's 1/8 away from a half, which tells us that that eighth is a bigger piece. It's farther away from a half.
I like that. It kind of gets them thinking about it without getting into the whole finding a common denominator for those folks.
Right. Well, because then we can kind of really pull in, we can actually build that idea, right? So we can get them into, we can actually get them to build half. That would be kind of our next step here is, okay, we're going to build fractions that are equal to half. And then we're going to take away one of the units. And that's going to help them see that idea that, okay, as that denominator gets bigger, that fraction piece is actually gets smaller because it takes that many of those to make a whole.
And then I think it lends itself very nicely to finding which ones, you know, when you're finding equivalent fractions to get those common denominators. So you could relate, you know, halves, sixes, thirds, fourths, you can all get to 12ths, right?
Right. So this is just one example of like ordering and comparing. You might get them to build fractions that are half, and then fractions that are slightly less than half, fractions that are slightly more than half, fractions that are close to 1. And then if you're getting into, I know for the intermediates, we're thinking about, well, we want students to be, into adding and subtracting fractions. So if we're thinking about 2/3 plus 1/4, one of the things that we're going to get them to think about is, well, if I'm adding 2/3 and 1/4, will that be more or less than 1? Will it be more than a whole or not? And then we can start talking about, well, I know that 1/3, because it's been split into 3, is larger than 1/4. So that means that I'm going to be less than 1. And then we want them thinking about, well, okay, well, if I'm adding these together, 2/3 and 1/4, I don't have 3/3 and I don't have 3/4. What am I referring to when I add these together? Then we can get into those conversations about, well, we actually need a block or a fraction tile that will go evenly both into thirds and into quarters.
Right.
Which is going to lead them into thinking about that's going to get them into thinking about 12ths. Then we can talk about why that works.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And then I think it might open the door for some of those kids that were struggling with the whole, what do you mean common denominators? Why do I need to do that? And this is a good visual picture to show, well, you can't compare thirds and quarters. You got to get them to the same kind of.
I have to be talking about the same thing, right? And you know, if we get the idea first and then name it later, that kind of tends to work better with kids, right? Is that we have to just find something that fits into both, and then, oh, mathematicians actually have a name for that thing. They call that a common denominator. So there's one of the tools that you can think about, you know, what would be something that's appropriate for your kids? How would you use it? I know that Diane's already got some ideas about how she's already been working with fraction strips. So here's kind of like another layer.
And I think, you know, when you get into like mixed numbers or improper fractions, I might put 2 of those or 3 of those on a slide. Right. If I needed more for kids to actually compare to.
And there's some really interesting, like when we do this as a shared slide deck and everybody's working concurrently on it, there's some really interesting things that happen. One of the things that I found is that when we assign students assignments remotely, typically like half of them will get completed. Where I see when we're working on this collaborative slide deck together, then once students have their name on it, they're very reluctant to leave it blank. Right, because other people can see it, their classmates can see it. It is a tool for kind of getting kids to engage,
right?
Because there is a little bit of social pressure to engage as well.
And you got to spend a little bit of time maybe going over the etiquette of it, right? You don't.
Oh, definitely, right? Is that
mess with somebody's work, and I can see you, and yeah.
And one way that you can signal that is often what I'll do is I'll go onto a slide deck and see how in the left-hand corner we can see their little icons. Is that when they're on that slide, I might just say, hey, Denise and Diane, so you guys are on the same slide. Totally okay to take a look, but make sure you get back to your slide, right? And just kind of having those conversations and showing that we are monitoring and that we can kind of see what's going on is usually enough to keep students from doing things that they shouldn't be. Any questions?
We rat each other out too.
Any questions about this or thoughts or things that you'd like to share?
Good. I'm just wondering, I know you're using slide slots, Teen. I've been using Jamboard, and probably similar benefits and such. It took us a little while, and I was nodding my head hugely when you were saying not all devices can access. Because I have a couple kids who are working on tablets and such, and they can't get on it. So going back to slides might be the way to go.
Yeah, it really is a lot of it is preference, right? Yeah,
and some kids can do the link and take screenshots and insert it, like some of that's not a problem for some kids. But like you said, Terry, like there's some students need extra support with, they're not quite as tech savvy as others, and some their devices aren't quite as up to date as the rest and aren't as friendly. So
yeah, sometimes that 20 pages limitation is an issue too, right? You kind of have to get it off. If you have a large class, you've got to make two Jamboards for it.
Yeah, and I haven't had that problem because I only have 19, so it's kind of nice because I see everybody's up there. And then I'll say, we were kind of like talking at the same time, and I'll say, hey, Zachy, go look at Gigi's slide because he's got the same thing going on as you. And the two of you, I want to talk to you directly. If anybody else wants to peek in, go to slide number 3. We're going to talk about a common mistake that with about 3 or 4. Oh, Aiden, you two, come join me. And then those kids who are like all needing the same interaction. And sometimes we'll even say, okay, we're going to go to another chat, keep that up, but join me in this chat code or whatever, and we'll be back. And that seems to work for some of my small group instruction kids. And then Scott, our resource teacher, will take some off the same Jamboard and go and talk to them about their work. But I can sort of see what he's doing with them at the same time. So it's nice for me, but there's 2 kids that just cannot access it. So we've been using it limitedly.
Right. Yeah, and I know that Jamboard's not in the app catalog for some devices, right? So that's another limitation as well. I think you touched on an important point, though. I like how you talked about one of the things that we're still trying to facilitate in online learning is that collective sense of community, right? And we can do things like you can do things like, oh, you know what? I want everyone to jump over to Terry's slide deck because she's doing something really interesting that we want to kind of share or talk about. And it kind of really facilitates sharing in that way as well. And like, students want their work to have some kind of audience often, right? Or someone's got to look at it. Someone's got to provide me some feedback. Someone's got to be thinking about it in order for that work to have value for them. So I like that you touched on that point as well.
It's just a little easier for me to manage too, because I've started doing a giant slideshow that's shared with everybody. If we're all doing the same thing, but maybe slightly different topics. So we had Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they each chose their own artist, but they had the same 4 template slides that they had to work on. And so as we were working together, I could say, who needs some help? Who's stuck somewhere? And then I'd say, what slide are you? And they just say, I'm slide 64. And I'd go to slide 64 and then see where they were maybe struggling, help them do a little research and say, I found a really good website. I'm going to put the link in the chat. Are you good now? And they would be like, yep. And then mute their mic again. And then somebody else might pop up and say what they needed. So it's just like a trial and error thing of what the kids seem comfortable with. And then you just start going, okay, I'm going to do more of that, I guess.
Well, and we've talked to earlier, we said that Google Slides isn't the beat all end all. Like it has its negative sides too, right? Like, you know, the fact that you can't draw on it, like if you can't just take your finger and start drawing or drawing lines on it. You got to use your mouse and you got to, and you can't embed audio in it. Well, you can, but it's a whole rigmarole. You got to go around through, Google Drive and embed it that way. But I mean, we thought that Google Slides kind of has the most bang for your buck. You can kind of go off on a couple different avenues.
Yeah. You can embed video links to research for them. Like I put it right on their slides and say, go to your slide. Everything you need is in slide 1.
Yeah, it's a pretty versatile tool, and that's why we've kind of leaned on it as well. I'm going to share with everyone our next piece here that we're going to look at is the next other manipulative is pattern blocks. Oh, I've got way too many copies there.
You want me to get the link?
I've got it. I pasted it 4 times here, so I'm just gonna fix that.
Oh.
Like got a little trigger happy here. Okay. So there's another shared deck. And we're gonna head over to this one here. So in this one, we've got the pattern blocks off to the side, and we'd like you to grab yourself a slide and create a design, get creative, that if the red trapezoid has a value of 1, create a design that has a total value of 5. Yeah. I'm going to take slide lucky number 15. Interesting how everyone has such different approaches.
Mm-hmm.
Diane's very eager. She's creating multiple designs.
I'm teaching fractions right now, so this is extremely interesting to me. And I'm definitely that person on the airplane that's building the airplane while it's in flight. I'm feeling that totally.
We all are. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the, what we're trying to do is design our instruction so that, first of all, it's student centered. So what students do here is going to tell us their current level of understanding. And then also what we can use this is that now we have an engagement hook for getting those conversations and getting that talk going. So now that students have had a chance to build these things, they're going to be much more likely to want to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, here's my design here. And I thought, well, I want to use those hexagons. So I know that a hexagon, that yellow hexagon is 2 of those red trapezoids. So that means that the hexagon has a value of 2, and I've got 4. And then I knew that together, this blue rhombus and this green triangle are going to make the same as a red trapezoid, which is 1. So that's going to tell me, so I can figure that my entire shape has a value of 5. You want to share anything about yours, Terry?
Sorry, I was minimized. I had to unmute myself. It took me a minute.
It's all good. No, it's up to you.
So I don't know, my brain always goes to symmetry. So, and I know some kids are like that. And some kids will just line them all up, hodgepodge, and go, there's 5. And then some want to create a pattern and they want it to sort of be balanced or whatever. And we always laugh because we know who we are in that group. And like some of us will go, that's driving you crazy, isn't it, Miss C? Or that's driving you crazy, isn't it, Aisha? And so I'm always trying to do some kind of design that, to me, I was logo building. I thought if I'm making a logo, because we did that recently with the kids, make your own logo.
Right.
And I was thinking about how great this would have been for them
Well,
to build their own logo for value.
And it's nice as you're sharing, right, is that when I'm hearing terms like symmetry, right, is that if a student doesn't bring that up, they probably don't know about it, right? So that there's a little bit of, kind of informal diagnostic information that I'm going to come back to your design and talk. We're going to, if we notice that in your design, we're going to come back and talk about it and kind of pull out that conversation. Anybody else okay with sharing their design or would like to?
I think if I was doing this, I would actually clone some of them. Like I would turn the green triangles upside down. Like I would rotate them.
Yeah.
And I would clone a whole bunch of those. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because that
and
was
having
kind
those
of getting on my
conversations.
OCD nerves too. I couldn't quite get it right. And then I was like,
right.
forget it, I'm not doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, I did that too. And I had to like right click on it and figure out, I'd never flipped something horizontally before. And I was like, what's gonna do? But it was kind of an experiment.
Right. Yeah. So there is we can definitely do some teaching around the tools too, right? So I can teach them about rotations here. So we could have I could flip it horizontal. I could flip it not horizontally because that's going to do not going to do anything. I can flip it vertically, and there's like my inverted triangle now. So kind of
and that's sort of what I was thinking too. Is like, okay, how does that relate to reflections on the X and reflections on the Y, and
right,
and getting kids to understand that there's more than just mathematical application for understanding how that works too. Because if you work in design, you need to understand that as well for your tools.
Rod says he made Pac-Man, 5 yellow tiles. I had to rely on subtracting 1/6.
I see Rod's. Oh.
Oh, Rod.
Clever. I like it. Awesome. So again, hopefully, our intent with these activities is to inspire creativity, right? So hopefully you've got some ideas about how you might implement this with your kids. And then, go give it a try and come back and do some sharing. If you build something awesome, the best thing that we can do is share that with others. One of the things that we know for sure is that online learning is a lot of work, and the more that we can lean on each other and share resources, the better off everybody's going to be.
And just for a quick, we just went on the internet and you just copied one of these shapes. Sometimes you had to go to that remove background to make it so that it had a transparent background, so it didn't get any patterned or colored shape around it. But and then you just, once you put it in your Google side, you just copy it and clone it. And it is a little bit of work to make the first original one, but I think after that, you can reuse it.
Yeah. Denise gave me a good tip though, is that, just like we would kind of mark our masters, in our photocopy file, is that it's a good idea to, mark your template as like a master or as a template so that you don't edit your original, because you often want to go back to your original. It's kind of
and then you just end up with a copy of a copy of a copy of
right.
a copy of a copy, and my drive was looking a little messy, so I had to clean her up. Yes.
That's gonna be one of my summer projects, is to try to clean up my Google Drive. It's gotten out of hand. I've got to deal with it. The last thing that we're going to share today is just another example, just to kind of play around with our tools a little bit more. This one is a perimeter area activity. And this comes from an online educator. Her name is Teresa Wills. On the first slide is a link to her website. She's got great templates and resources that are pre-built. And she offers a whole bunch of free PD, as well as in terms of like math instruction and stuff like that. So she's really, really excellent. So there's another potential resource. But so in this, we might set this, you could use this in a variety of ways. Again, like it really depends on what your intent is here. We're going to create a shape that is 9 square units and has a perimeter of 20. What might that look like? So what you can do is you select the square that you want to use, and then what you do is you change the fill color. So, and if you want to select more than 1 square at a time, you can hold down Control and click on some more squares as well, and then you're gonna fill those.
So then you're not really moving the shapes like we were on another one. This one we're just coloring in.
Yeah. In this case, we're just coloring to try to meet this condition. We're trying to create. So like on this one, it's 9 units and 20 units, but all of these slides have different numbers. So if you want students to work on to kind of work independently, you can change the numbers so that students are, if you're worried about them doing their own work. Kind of reminds me of Tetris.
I'm not sure if anybody has any questions or any comments. All of these links will be in our show notes too. We'll put the link up for that. We'll
share those.
Click on that, and it's from Ongoing, like we did last year. So we just added on. It's actually the same one we used last year that has all of our from spring sessions on it, and then we just add on every time we do a session, any of the links or the resources that we share.
Yeah. So those were just some samples that we thought, a lot of teachers are heading into looking at fractions, and those are 2 really good manipulatives for getting kids to understand fractions kind of at the conceptual level. And then we wanted to give you kind of the tiles as a game kind of way to think about manipulatives as well. So hopefully those things were helpful for you today. Does anybody have thoughts or questions or any comments about any of those?
Sorry, I've got construction outside that I was looking at. I was just, it's always in the same link?
It's always in the same link,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we just add to it every week.
Right. I'm just actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I used the links for today's activities in there. So I'm going to go back in and I'll edit those so that they're they'll force you to create a copy.
Oh, of the originals before we started.
Yeah, because I think I put copies of the links from our activities today, but I'll go in and update those if you give me a few minutes. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, possibly Sean. Incognito, right? We really appreciate your support. I I know how hard it is to come here at 3:30 on a Tuesday, and
during report cards.
During report cards, you guys got a lot on the go. So just thank you so much again, as always, for what you do for kids. But do also remember to take care of yourselves. We are here to support one another. If you need help, please reach out. Please, if you find that these resources are helpful and it's really working for kids, please share back to us, because we want to take your brilliant ideas and spread those widely as possible.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And here's hoping that next week. Now, I wasn't going to say because I didn't want to jinx it, but I'm doing it anyway. So I hope I don't see you next week online.
Yeah, one day I would love to be all back together with all of you in a room working together. So please take care of your. No, we're good. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. We will see you soon, one way or the other.
Yeah. Take it easy. Look after yourselves this week, folks, when you're working on report cards. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.